My name is Melissa Machen, Technical Services with Cargill, Starches, Sweeteners, and Texturizers. I specialize in plant proteins and the growing plant-based application categories. Meat alternatives is definitely one of these growing spaces in plant-based foods. In this Tech at Home talk, we'll explore meat alternatives and focus on the ingredients that are commonly used to create these products. Over the last several years, we've really seen an explosion of plant-based meat alternatives. They're showing up everywhere, from retail to food service launches, in media articles and coverage. We've seen this growing trend. 55% of people say they're open to plant-based protein as an ingredient in packaged food or beverages. As global population is increasing, consumers are looking for sustainable and nutritionally dense options for center of the plate. When considering plant-based meat alternatives, consumers are looking for familiar ingredients and label-friendly options. Some consumers are out to discover something new and to try new things. Other consumers are looking for convenience. But we know that they want healthy options to reduce fat, saturated fat, and cholesterol in their diet. But most importantly, they're looking for a product that tastes good, that's flavorful, that has appealing texture, and has the juiciness that leads to a satisfying product. We know that the consumers of meat alternatives is broader than just vegans or vegetarians. We know that 1 in 4 consumers are looking to moderate meat in their diet in some way. So maybe that's replacing a conventional meat product with a plant-based product once a week in their diet. There's meat alternatives that are mimickers, those products that mimic the appearance, the flavor, and the texture of conventional meat. Then we have those products that are blended or a hybrid product. So products that utilize meat along with plant protein additions. And then we have products that are truly plant forward. Those products that are based on whole vegetables, legumes, grains, and other inclusions, like a black bean burger. There's different categories of meat alternatives as well. Burgers and patties have really been the most prevalent category in this space for several years, making beef alternatives the most popular. But where is the market going in the future? Products such as pork, chicken, and seafood alternatives are quickly gaining momentum in the developer space. Alternatives to chicken nuggets or plant-based options for breakfast meats are continuing to be seen as launches in the market. Consumers make purchasing decisions with their eyes first and foremost. So whether that be in retail or food service, consumers really want an attractive product. So in the retail category, what does that mean? Maybe that's what the packaging looks like. The product may be positioned in the freezer section or in the refrigerated case. Is that product visible? How does it look to the consumer? Can the products be cooked or are they in a ready-to-eat form? And what does the color look like of that product? If the consumer is purchasing the product in food service, they look at advertisements. When consumers get that product home, how does the product look and smell outside of the packaging? Is the color and aroma appealing? Does the product look like they intended? The most important thing about consumers is, what are they expecting? What are their expectations? But ultimately, again, it all leads to taste. What is the flavor? What is the texture? What is the moisture like of that product? It's really critical for return consumer buyers. So there's various process technologies that can be used to create meat alternatives. Some technologies that are used are fermentation or high moisture extrusion. But probably one of the most common ways to make a meat alternative is through hydrating textured protein, adding other ingredients, and forming that into a product or the format that you want, like a burger or a patty. So we're going to really focus on that style of process today. With that style of process, the typical meat alternative ingredients that are utilized for these types of products, first is water. Water gives us the hydration that we need to hydrate the textured protein. It provides juiciness in our product, and also helps with processability of the product. Textured protein is used to give us that meat-like texture. It helps with water holding and also, of course, protein fortification. And then there's fat. Fat's added to emulate meat nutrition and mouthfeel. It gives us the moisture and lubricity and also gives us some firmness when chilled. And then we have binders. We can use different ingredients for binders in these products. We typically see things like protein powder, hydrocolloids, or fibers used in these. They provide firmness for the product. They bind to water and bind to fat. They add viscosity and can also help with gelling and cohesiveness of the product. So let's dive into these ingredients a little bit deeper. First, let's start with water. The water balance is really critical in meat alternative systems to understand the optimization between the hydration of your textured protein product as well as the functional ingredients that are in those systems for binding. So we want to balance the water in between those to understand the time that's required to hydrate some of these ingredients and also the temperature that's required for these systems as well. We also talk about plant proteins. Plant proteins are really the backbone of these meat alternative products. So textured plant protein, meaning possibly soy, which is the most popular and has been for the last 25 years. And now we're looking at other plant proteins that are coming available, like textured pea protein. Cargill has a joint venture with Purist Pea, and they manufacture a textured pea protein that works really great in these systems as an alternative to soy. There's other proteins that are used in these products, maybe as a protein powder that's used for binding and for also protein fortification. So things like vital wheat gluten, things like wheat protein, potato protein, and some of the new and novel proteins like chickpea or fava are also added to these systems. All of these protein sources are added. And when adding these proteins, we really consider what kind of product are you making? What is the product form? And with that, what is your ratio of textured protein to powdered protein look like? What is your desired protein content of the product? Do you have a desired PDCAAST score? So do you have a desired amount of complete protein in the product? And then what is the functionality? Are you looking for water or fat binding? Are you looking for gel strength in a protein? Or are you looking for emulsification of these proteins that are in some of these meat alternatives? The next category of ingredients that are in many of these meat alternatives are fats and oils. So saturated fats or oils are added, saturated fats are added to add really that similar fatty acid profile that we see in traditional meat, to add the succulence and to also add processability in the product. So if you're manufacturing it through a cold environment at cold temperatures, then that saturated fat will help firm up the product. Unsaturated fats or oils can also be added. They help with lubricity, they help to add moisture to the system, and they can also improve that fat ratio for consumer perception. So meaning it helps improve the unsaturated to saturated ratio in the product. And then we have our binder systems. So those hydrocolloids, starches, and fibers that are added to the system to create cohesiveness with the product. So to bind those textured pieces together, it adds firmness to the product and also adds some amount of process tolerance. So thinking about different hydrocolloids in Cargill's portfolio, such as xanthan or carrageenans, they can be added to these meat alternatives for cohesiveness. Then we have starches. So Cargill has a huge portfolio of starches, including modified as well as native starches and functionally native starches that can be added to help bind these ingredients together to help with yield and texture of the product. It also helps improve the bite by adding some firmness to the product. And then we have fibers. So different plant fibers can be added to, again, help with moisture retention, to help with mouthfeel, and to help with that texture enhancement that we're looking with these products. Other ingredients that can be added to meat alternatives that are really important is one is color. So really imparts the color to mimic traditional meat products. Typically these colors can be of natural source and can be a liquid or a powder. And then you also want to consider the heat stability of these colors. There's also flavorings added. So flavors that are vegan, vegetarian compliant for these plant-based options. Savory flavors that add that umami flavor to the item. Maybe smoke or cooked flavors like reactionary flavors that can be added. Yeast extracts can be added. And different various builds of all of these flavors together. So definitely want different layers of flavors built on top of one another. And of course, we also have salt as part of flavorings that we add to meat alternatives to add to the appeal and palatability of the product. Then we have shelf life. So different ingredients can be added as antioxidants, antimicrobials to help with the long-term shelf stability, may it be through frozen or refrigerated storage. I know, like for many of you, I'm working from home in my kitchen these days. So today we're going to run through the process of creating meat alternatives and the steps that we utilized. So first we have our textured protein. So textured protein looks like this. This is a textured soy flour from Cargill. This is Purus's textured pea protein. We can hydrate this with water to create our base product. And this is what hydrated textured pea protein looks like. It plumps up nicely, it absorbs all the water that we've added to it, and then we can use this as our base to create our meat alt. With this, next step is we add all of our other ingredients into our mixer. So sometimes, depending on the ingredients that you choose or select, you may need some shear. So in this case, we have all of our ingredients here. We have our seasoning, we have salt, we have our binder in here, as well as some additional protein to help with binding that product together, as well as adding some additional protein. So we can add that into our mixer that we're using here today. Another thing that we add to these systems is fat. So this is a saturated fat. It's a coconut flake that we're using in this product to add to that. And then also we have our water, so really important. So we can blend this in our mixture. What it does is that creates a slurry or an emulsion that we can then add to our hydrated protein. So we'll go ahead and do that. You can see this is pretty thick, but we can add this into our mixer and mix that product up. So after a few minutes, we have all of our ingredients blended together. We have the hydrated textured protein, we have our water, fat, and additional ingredients like our starches and functional ingredients to help create cohesiveness and hold this product together as we go through the forming process. One other thing that'll help in the forming process is to chill the product right now, and it'll go through the machines and the belts much easier the colder this product is. So one thing you can do, form it into patties. For this product today, I formed it into meat alternative meatballs that you can bake off or cook off in your oven. Depending on your processing plant, you can use a continuous oven, a batch oven, wet and dry steam combination ovens together seem to work quite well for this type of product to really create a nice texture, as well as to keep that moisture and lubricity that we want in this product. So an example of how this can be served as a center of the plate item. Here is the meatball heated up in marinara sauce and served on pasta. I cut one open here for you guys to look at the inside. You can see that meat-like texture. You can see the textured protein piece really looks nice when you bite or when you look at that product. And then when you bite into that product, it has nice firmness and nice texture and really has some of that bounce that you would expect in a traditional meat product. So I hope you learned a little bit today about ingredients and process steps that you would use for meat alternatives. If you're looking at a meat alternative project in the future, call us at Cargill. We have technical experts that can help give advice on ingredients, on formulation, and on process capabilities. Thanks for your time today.